you're a distinguished figure in society. And people look at you like the epitome of perfection. I don't know what that means, but epitomize. Honestly, am I lying? No, I'm not lying. Which are obviously not perfect, that's the truth. But you give people an image of someone that has actually walked the talk and they have held their own. You don't find them in all this quencher in the streets. Like quencher. You know, so it's like. So, we're here and we are witnessing something that is more than just chit chat. This is not Rugambo, guys just in Quencher.
Quencher by God.
To everyday campaigns.
This is real time, and for me, this is admirable that I'm actually witnessing something. I've crossed paths with Mark a couple of times, and I'm very appreciative of how he was raised. Whenever that he has that chair next to you, if you have a chair next to someone right now, you might get a smack. You wake up at Kiss Clinic after 3 weeks, and you're like, oh, what happened? With Mom, what am I here? 3 weeks.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
So to witness this right now is to me a very beautiful thing. And on top of that, to see that the energy is right, there's no pretense. You know, most of us we live in an era where parents are disconnected from their children.
Right.
Yeah. And so Nani is out the home gate. If Mark was coming in the gate and he had to hide the dreads, he'd even buy those dreads and hide them in the car.
Detachable.
You guys buy dreads now?
Yes, for real.
No.
You guys buy dreads, yeah.
There's men weaves, has everything.
What, you stick them back?
Yeah, one after, yeah.
Men weaves, all that.
You're joking.
I'm
telling you.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
So you
get out a little more.
You know, so it's like here it's real. I've seen this man, and I was particularly impressed by how he was raised, based off the fruit that I see. Now I am here with the orchestrator, the chief architect of Mark and Danny and so on. So it's how have you raised these kids in light of this narrow set of ideals that we have been raised under? Yes.
Okay, 2 things. One, I don't think Mark or Daniel or our daughter Michelle came in half-baked. They came complete. God delivered a full package. Complete. And my job, my husband's job, was to steward them, raise them, set them free.
Right.
And I am not sure we've done a good job. I think every day we've tried. Every single day we've really looked how best do we do this. And it's not a straight line. There's always detours, you meander, then you come back. So you're always recalibrating as a steward. The second one is for each one of them to know that they're actually approved. They don't need to come into the gate in a form or a picture of what I like.
That's key.
You know, they don't need to come and say, this is what mommy will accept, therefore let me, detach the dreads, like you say.
Put them in the boot, in the trunk.
Take off the earring.
Yeah.
Yes.
For a very good reason that the dreads or the earrings or the torn jeans don't make who Mark is.
Right.
Mark is Mark as God gave him to us.
Right.
Yeah, so it's really been every day I think God just allows you to make the right decision. And like we were saying a little bit earlier, there is really no manual, and I'm glad there is no manual.
Right.
Because if then it would make robots.
Yeah.
You'd make...
it would be predictable.
Yeah, I mean, nobody wants a world made of exactly the same human being. You know, the beauty is in the diversity. There were times, particularly myself, I think, Mark, you should tell the truth, when I was in control mode.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it happens.
As they were younger, especially I think when they hit their teenage years. When kids are reaching teenage, everything changes.
Yeah.
Their biology changes.
Puberty and what?
Before then, they were totally dependent on you. And so you felt you had the authority and the right to mold them, shape them. And they were pliant. In your hands, you could shape them. Then they hit puberty, and then they begin pushing against every...
I want to experiment.
Right?
I want to learn.
Yes,
Yes.
and they're exploring.
Yes.
And they're trying to find their boundaries. They're actually trying to be their own person,
Right.
not the person you have been trying to make them.
Right.
That's a critical point in any parent's life, to understand I could build a wall around them and keep them here, and they will always be what I call them to be, or I could allow them to come out and be shaped the way God meant them to be.
Right.
Part of the shaping is going to be hard knocks from outside.
It's painful.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think they've had their experiences.
For sure. I think just to kind of go back to his question. One, I kind of grew up understanding my relationship with my parents is paramount, more than my appearance. And of course, it's the respect level.
Yeah.
But I know, okay, as long as the relationship stays, the most important
It's
thing.
powerful.
Yes. Number two, going back to the respect and okay, there's some things I'm not going to do in their presence. There's some things I'm going to show them respect, but at the same time, at the core of myself, I have to understand I'm who they raised. Yeah. So like you're talking about being respectful to other people. Yes.
To me, it's admirable. Again, because it's not just talk.
You're not performing.
You're not performing.
Yeah.
It's not performance orientation. It's real happening, and you're saying a byproduct of someone that, which is something that I was very intrigued by, and I felt like I had to meet, because it's really good. Honestly, it's not like it's something that you do. I'm an understood observer, so I keep observing you and how you're respectful and how you're doing. I call you Savavulu now.
I'm finished. Yeah.
And
No, yeah.
and you're doing things that are not the norm.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, how do you deal with that type of like stereotype? Because me, I'm into I'm a creative. Man, Google, and I'm like, my goodness, my brain is working, functioning perfectly. I might not be doing what you were raised to believe that is the right path, but I'm here nonetheless.
Yeah, I think every day you really learn something.
Yeah.
I think
Back and forth.
you've got to leave the space open for discussion, for talk. If they ever feel they've come to a point where they cannot speak to us, we have closed that door.
That's true. Yes.
And so you make every effort to try and keep it open. In that space where you're talking, both parties are learning. The parent
And the child.
and the child.
Yeah. I was going to say it's like it's a back and forth.
Yeah.
So there's a willingness for you to know that you need to learn.
100%. 100%. I mean, he came with earrings, and I was thinking, oh my God.
What the hell?
How am I going to explain this to my family? And then he said, Mommy, there is nothing.
But what did you explain to the family? Right now. What did you tell the family?
We have a very interesting family. My sister said, nice.
Yes.
And in it,
Yeah.
And she's older than me. So
Interesting.
He said, nice. Oh, Mark, you look great. He came with dreads, and they said exactly the same thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
But before you didn't get it, you're like,
No, a few days later, it meant absolutely nothing, because the real person still comes out.
right.
Mark
Right.
is not the earring.
Right.
Daniel is not
That's powerful.
the whatever.
That's
you know?
powerful. Yeah.
So it's just really understanding that the real person is actually there, and that's who you relate with. You don't relate with hair
Yes.
or something else. You relate with the real person. And Daddy, it must have been a little harder.
Yeah, I had
It's
to.
a lot more
I
traditional.
had to have
Convince him a bit more.
Yeah,
Yeah.
had a conversation about it, and same thing. I was like, okay, but why? I was like, do they define you? I was like, no, but I like it.
Yeah.
It's just something I like. And I was thinking, okay, I gave the excuse of saying, oh, I'll be bold in a few years when we do something like that.
I had that excuse so many times, and I thought, okay.
Yeah, but yeah, just knowing, like she said, having that real relationship with them is the most part. Yeah.
I mean, this is the reason I just told you I have this chains here. My mom didn't like them. For me, what they mean to me is African roots. So it's a reminder to me what I stand for. My mom doesn't want to know this Quencha.
Yes.
Like,
Quencha.
But I'm like, mommy, just you relax. This for you.
Yeah.
Don't tell me about what.
You understand.
You know what I mean? I pray that you're okay with it, okay, at the very least. So I think there's that perception of how people will take you, and things like that. And yet, really and truly, that is the list. Should be the list, because if you're willing to come to the table and sit down and have a chat around these things and listen and talk, because when you keep pointing fingers at me, I'm going to walk away. I'll never come back to that gate. If I'm coming, I'm going to come and pretend that I'm okay, but really and truly, we're very disconnected from our parents right now, as it stands currently.
No, I mean, if you have this discussion with your parents, and your parents appreciate that you have not changed,
that's powerful.
You know, your parents will relax. I hope.
I
can only speak for myself. But I also have to say, I think there has to be a limit.
Yeah.
Because sometimes living in a different culture, experiencing different things that are happening around you and conforming to them can actually affect the person inside.
Right. Right.
It has happened before.
Right.
Where people go completely off because they've gone too far down this path and they can't come back. And so.
No, but that's powerful, because when I see, when I hear from you, I feel like I said earlier, you carry things in moderation. You're traditional, which has its place in society. Of course, it's very powerful to us. But at the same time, you learn, you travel, you're seeing that things are evolving, because the way you perceive life in your time is completely different to what's happening now. And what's happening is we're pretending like we still live in the 80s. Because we don't.
Yeah, we don't.
Right now, there's a lot of things, technological advancements that are actually guiding people's minds. So, in your way, I'm a creative. So they say, okay, you just sit down and go and do engineering. Let those people in the Western world
do their thing.
Lead our children subconsciously, because at the end of the day, our minds are run biologically.
Yes.
And so, we're living in a rapidly accelerated, unprecedented culture.
Very fast. It's moving so fast that we adjust or we get left behind.
Yes.
Even as families or as generations. We ourselves, myself, I'm a product of the family I came from.
Right.
My mom and my dad and how they raised us.
Right.
And they were really not overly liberal, but they were also, they allowed us to express ourselves.
Powerful.
Yeah. And because we're such a big, warm, happy family, we did not experience the fear that sometimes parents have now when the world is changing so fast around their kids that they go into control mode. No, I was just thinking, as a young girl, I was a teenager and in my S4 vac, and I don't know what possessed me, but there were football matches and I went for a football match. I don't even love football.
Wow.
But I said, can I go? And they said, go. And I went and I looked at these people chasing this ball and came back. But that thing has never left my mind. For me, that impacted my life to the point where I think, they're okay.
They're okay.
They're okay. You just keep an ear out to make sure that they're all right, that they're safe, that they're not going over the line. But you don't really, because control actually pushes people to go back.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, like I was saying, because what tends to happen is, I keep dwelling to the biology, because there's a way God put our minds.
Yes.
Our brains, and they function a certain way. Things that trigger us.
Yes.
And so what they say, that the formidable years of conditioning a child are from birth to 12.
That's right.
Yes, yes.
Now, the mistake that we make is we start to condition. We think we can condition them at 15 or 16 when they're in S4,
Yeah.
and neglect this whole
These
years that were before.
Yeah.
Were left to TV and all these things and schools and what, and you're never present. So now, the moment you want to get present, it's a bit too late because their personalities have already been formed.
Also, I think that the external that is happening around you all the time gives you the opportunity to decide whether to go into maintaining a parenting mode that you've always done or to adjust.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, because we come from an older generation, but we're living in this generation.
True.
We're living in these times. And the options, opportunities are so different, so
Too many options.
Too many, and that creates its own complexity. And so we grew up in a generation where you do, if you do arts, you do law.
Yes.
If you do sciences, you are a doctor.
Medicine. Yeah.
Medicine, engineering, anything else is not good enough. And so there was incredible pressure. Our parents didn't do that to me, and not to Paul either. But when these kids started school, our desire was for them also to do a course that we used to say these are the solid ones. And then we quickly realized there's so much more out there than was in our time.
Right.
Yeah.
Daniel, for example, started business, ended up with
psychology. Yeah. So I think that willingness to explore yourself is very important as well. And I don't remember this quote word for word, but talking about raising children, I remember someone said that the goal or what a parent should do is not just to protect but to build strong children. People who are like children who are strong enough to go into the world and take care of themselves. It's very necessary.
It does actually remind me of a quote from I think it's Frederick Douglass that said, "It's easier to raise strong children than broken men." Now, in light of that fact,
it's powerful.
most of us, it's like a tree, a branch. You know, when it's still young, it's a bit wobbly, so you can actually, because it's impressionable, desirable, you can. But when something is firm, you cannot change it. You break it if you're doing that. Yes. So that's what we're currently facing as we speak. That most of our old folk have been conditioned a certain way. But there has to be a willingness to want to understand someone's perspective. You don't even have to understand. Just give it. Just be there. Be willing to know that you don't know, because the truth is times are different. And there's a lot happening that we're not even mindful of. We're living in a very technological era that we don't even know how it's functioning and how it's affecting us psychologically. So, right now, children have, suicidal ideation, and people are stuck in their rooms on their mobile phones, but we don't know how to react around that. When someone comes and says, thank you, radically.
Yeah.
When you're in rehab and you're struggling with an addiction, you have to radically accept that I'm broken.
Don't hide,
for me to
don't
find
hide
that,
from it.
yes, for me to now, for when you radically accept that I have a problem, I now take the necessary measures to understand why I'm functioning the way I am. From the root cause, not just the fruit. Because if you keep telling your son, you're drunk, you're always drunk, hey, even if I'm always drunk, I want to go back to the bar.
Yeah.
Because you're now just making me feel like, okay, Kawa is done. Let me go back. See, now on a path that we're unwilling to now venture into, because we now just want to be on. We live in a culture of vibes.
Very true.
And if you've heard that word vibes,
I have.
it's just vibes.
I live with them.
Yeah. So we're trying to think of finding a way of which we can create a platform that can connect parents to their kids.
It's so important.
Where people can sit down and be like, okay, mommy,
really important.
I've been in and out of rehab, but I just need to understand my perspective. You might not understand, you might not get it, but just hear me out and choose to say, okay, now do you think we have what do we do? As opposed to saying no, because you've been telling me no all my life. When you tell someone don't touch that wall, I want to go and touch it.
It builds rebellion.
But when you tell someone, okay, how do I just feel free to do whatever you need to do around me? Trust me, it's going to challenge me to want to change.
Yes.
And so we need to move from that legalistic approach, which is not something people do deliberately, but it has been infused upon them based on their own fears of how they've been raised, and they don't want their children to go through that. Yeah. So they try as much as possible to shield, but really and truly, you're not shielding me. You're disarming me for what lies ahead. Yeah. So there has to be a willingness to want to raise kids to make mistakes, but be there while they make those mistakes. Come on, I
There to
embrace
pick
you.
them
When you
up.
make a mistake, come on, I hug
Yeah.
you. Not to throw you off and tell you everyone because I want my reputation to be intact.
But why do we live for the outside? You know, it's something that. Why do we live in so much fear? What
Of
your
what
neighbor
people
will
think, yes.
say, because that really limits your options of doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, humans are a sight-focused animal. So how we see things is what we perceive.
Right.
And now image is very important to us. So even things like hair,
Yeah,
earrings,
yeah. What will the neighbors say?
I mean,
What
appearance
will-
is the first thing.
Right.
Notice of a person. And it's going to perceive you.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But for the opening up, there has to be an environment condition
Yeah.
for it
That
to open
allows
up.
Yes,
that to
yeah,
happen.
because-
Yeah.
yeah.
Unfortunately, not too many
It's not
people
there.
get it.
Yeah.
You walk in and you see your pops, you see your mom, and she's disgusted by you walking in at 8 a.m.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
have to break.
You know, and she can't even allow you to even talk. So, when you keep having that environment around you, I'm not going to be open. I cannot express. So
Yeah.
it already shows how it's very difficult. It's a very, very tough
But at the same
thing
time,
to do. Parenting is a very
yeah, it's tough, but also at the same time, I think, like you said, it's conducive on both parts. I'm not going to come in at 8 a.m., whatever, steaming, drunk, and think I'm going to have a conversation with my parents. No. I need to know, okay, I need to come respectfully as well, because that's a value I've been brought up to understand that, okay, this is important, both ways.
But you see how powerful that is?
Yes.
It's predicated on your upbringing. It's not just something that just manifests.
No,
now.
no, no.
That's what we tend to forget.
You have to learn, yeah.
It has been conditioned into you, and so you are just doing it like from a very secondary standpoint. I believe most is caught than is taught.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a powerful point.
Yes.
Also, because
Sorry.
parents will train their child more with what they do than what they say.
Yes.
And if you have the kind of home where the mother and father are always fighting,
True.
or the guy comes in
Late.
dead drunk at
Yeah.
all hours of the night
Yeah.
and is a nuisance,
Yeah.
you know, the children, that's what you're
Regardless of what you tell them,
yeah, absolutely.
it's like
I
these
mean,
things where you tell the son, if I ever catch you smoking, could be this time to smoke.
He's smoking himself.
If I ever catch you smoking,
there's a verse in the Bible, I think it's in Proverbs, that says, train a child in the way he should go, and when he's older, he will not depart from
right?
it. Basically, that's what we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Training them by your words, of
Actions.
course, but more
importantly.
by your life, by what they observe. And you can't train them and be behaving differently. Yeah.
There's a story I particularly like to talk about. This guy who is in the States, Jamie Foxx.
Yes.
Jamie Foxx used to compete with P. Diddy who hosts the biggest parties in East Coast and West Coast.
Yes.
Imagine.
And Jamie Foxx would bring ladies and what to the house, but he had a daughter.
Oh,
And the daughter tells you how brutally honest the dad was with.
Huh.
And say, listen, for me, I'm struggling. This is my life. I don't want you to do this, but I want you to witness and see what's happening. I'm not going to hide this from you. And so people are asking her, she's into Hollywood, and asking how she's been raised. Because you don't see her in scandals or anything. And she tells you it's just based on honesty that my dad came and approached me and told me the truth. He didn't try to hide and put me in another house.
Yeah.
He's like, I had to witness these things. I took my nephew one time who was about 8 years at the time.
Yeah.
I took him to my friends who were smoking and drinking. I was like, have a chat with these guys. So they tell you about their life and what leads them to. And they were just basically telling him how they're struggling.
yes. Yeah.
And he goes to me, he's like, Uncle Derek, why don't you, how come you're different from these guys? I'm like, at least you've heard their story.
Yeah.
You heard what made them get to where they are and how they're not happy with where they are. To me, I equipped him. Because I know he has a very powerful memory.
Of course,
Yeah.
When you see these Asians, they take their kids to the bars. I don't know if you've noticed that pattern. They're very hands-on. They take them to their businesses and things.
Yeah.
But you take your kid, this kid has seen your business since they were 14, 13.
They are going to walk in it.
Now for you, you're taking your kid you're giving them a business at 22. Please go and run the business.
He has no idea.
You know what I mean? That business is going to run to the ground in 2 months.
Yeah.
You know? So it's like,
Yeah.
it's a testament to how
Being
we're
intentional.
raised. Yeah, being intentional. So again, the whole concept around this is birthing a culture that allows us to think. A culture that can give us the tools to want to. Because I have many peers and friends of mine in the youth and whatnot that are battling. they're broken, they're complete, and we want to connect. Because for me, my mom is special to me, and so people want to connect with their old folk, but they can't do that.
Yeah.
Every time they try to do, there's resistance. And it further draws us away,
Yeah.
which now also is going to reflect through our own relationships.
Yeah.
So that's why we live in a very now the divorce culture right now is.
Yes.
Yeah,
It's like
terrible.
cut halfway.
Yes, connect. Let's begin with talking.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sit down, let's talk.
Yeah.
Like, okay,
Yeah.
things are not okay. Okay, now what do we do?
And talk about anything or
Anything,
everything.
yes.
Yeah, don't reserve topics for
Right.
what might be
what
acceptable.
what is favorable. What,
Yeah,
no.
yeah.
So I think what this represents to me is that it's not you just coming and say, okay, now guys, step 1, step 2, run here, step 3, now go under here.
Ooh,
No,
lovely.
you've raised amazing kids, I must say that.
Thank you.
thank you.
I'm so glad to hear that.
Well done, honestly.
I'm
And
so
but-
glad to hear that unsolicited.
No, well done.